Hello all, welcome back, and today we're talking composition. I'm something of a portrait artist, if I can give it a name. So when I branch out to do other things, they tend to be, como se dice, specifically things that have to do with like environment pieces, background pieces, anything that's not the human face I struggle with, mainly because of my lack of understanding of color and composition. But here recently, I've been in the lab, I've been grinding, and I feel like I've discovered some tips that have really helped me work on my composition and kind of get it to a place where I'm okay with it and feel like I have a foundation where I can actually build on. Did that sound good? I think that sounded like okay, but it's okay. Let's just roll the clip. So what is composition? Composition is literally just making things look good together and making them all aesthetically pleasing to your eye. There are a lot of different types of composition. Some really popular ones I feel like are the rule of thirds and the golden spiral, mainly because the rule of thirds shows up a lot in movies and films, and then the golden spiral has like 10,000 memes. Like I've seen the golden spiral meme everywhere because it just pops up so naturally in nature, so shout out to that dude. And with the help of the understanding of all these different types of compositions is how I was able to start off my sketch for the piece I'm talking about today. Now, I used a more of like a cylindrical, circular, central? I think central is what I'm thinking of. Central composition or a tunnel composition. One of the two, but I'm gonna call it a central composition, where pretty much your eye is drawn to the center of the image, and whatever is the most important part of the image you're going to put in the center. That's what I used to create this piece today. So my sketch process is something that I like to describe as cerebral, because honestly it goes from my brain onto the paper without any sort of revisions or reiteration, and that's honestly what kind of sparked, in my opinion, what is the most important part of composition, and that is value. As you can see here with this sketch, I'm not really going in with many details, but just the idea of what I want it to look like. I know I want the outer edges to be darker than the middle, and at the beginning of the sketch, that's all I really have. I didn't really get much into the details after because I just didn't think that was important right now, because I knew as long as I had the values, this image could just turn into anything. Now, I saw the entire piece completed in my mind, and that's why I was able to just put it onto the paper like this without really any sort of sketch process. Like I said, I don't recommend doing this, but a lot of the times that is how my sketch process ends up, and I just kind of let it flow. I don't do much to it. I don't want to mess it up because I feel like when I go back on it, that's when it gets kind of overworked and I lose the idea. When studying up on composition, I learned pretty quickly that value is king. Now, as I started to get more into the details of the sketch, I kept in mind my values and how I kind of wanted them to translate throughout the entire image. I kind of knew I wanted plants at the bottom, maybe potentially, but the plants would have to be dark. Then I knew I wanted it to have like a really gritty looking background, but that would also have to be dark. So then I wanted to keep in mind, what could I put on top of all that to kind of make it pop. So then I added in like the subject in the middle with the bowls and the drawers and the things like that, and eventually things started to come together. How light or dark something is will ultimately impact the mood and story of your entire image. And that brings me back to my original point and why I started out my sketch with just the color itself, because that's the impact that I wanted to give by the end of the image. Also, I kind of believe it's just easier to understand an image in lights and darks versus shape and flow. Now, I'm not saying that's 100% all the time, but for me in particular at this moment in time, that's how I choose to do it, and I think that's the easier way to understand it. Now, that might change, but in my opinion now, lights and darks versus shape and flow. Or lights and darks first, then shape and flow second. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. What do y'all think is better? Do y'all think lights and darks first and then shape and flow? Or do you think shape and flow and then lights and darks? I'm kind of conflicted, but I do think doing the lights and darks and all the values down first and then coming in with the shape and flow might be a little bit better, but let me know. I'm always open to suggestion. Now, because of my grayscale sketch, I was able to complete my underpainting with a lot of ease because it allowed me to quickly change the colors and fix up my lighting. And I'm be honest with y'all, for me, that is very, very important because my lighting is not that good right now. My color in general isn't that good, but that's why I've been trying to jump more into colored pieces so that I can put myself into the deep end and hopefully get better quicker. Now, because I did a grayscale undersketch, obviously I want to talk about gradient maps. I'm not going to go super into detail about them because I'm not a pro and I use Ibis Paint, and I don't know if Ibis Paint is the best for gradient maps because, as you can see, the one that I'm using here is relatively simple. Now, what I do like about this gradient map is that it gave me a buildable base. I do think it helped that much. Starting on something that's just blank and bland, I feel like can be a bit mentally taxing. So going in with the color layer on the bottom, or I guess it's technically on top of that grayscale render, did kind of help me build my colors later on, and that's pretty much what I did. Once I got this base color layer, I then went in on top with more colored layers and just put down hella colors. I mean, I use so many colors because I just wanted it to look good. I wanted it to be juicy and bright and vibrant, so I just went in with a bunch of different colors and just layered them on top until I got what I thought was like a pretty nice underpainting. It looks really, really good because this is what it will look like at the end. What I mean by that is, like, no, the rendering is not complete, but the idea is complete. So now I just have to render on top of it. But before I did that, I went back in again and did a super light, loose sketch layer, because at this point, as you can see, everything is pretty loose, but I wanted to clean up the lines a little bit more just so that I have something to contain my rendering later. So that's what you kind of see me doing here. Then once I got all my sketch layers done, I just kind of used that underpainting. I used my old sketch layer and just rendered everything. I kept in mind all the darkness and lightness of the colors as well, and how they work in relation to each other, just so that I don't lose the overall aspect and mood of that image. And obviously it's kind of hard to do that because of the method that I used going into it. It's all pretty much done myself. I don't have to do any sort of extra accessory work. I just have to render what I'm looking at, if that makes sense. Something I think you guys should be wary of, because I think I struggled a bit with this in this image, is muddiness. And I often find that when doing a grayscale method with all these darker values, or just with these harsh values in general, you can get a bit muddy even after I use the gradient maps, even after I layered a bunch of colors on top and then plus the rendering. I do feel like it still got a bit muddy, and that is something I'll work on in my next painting. I didn't fix it in this one because I don't like to work on things for too long, and I also don't like to go back and fix things once I'm done. I know I say that all the time, but like, it's true. But after looking back on it, I can see that I think it could use a bit of separation, and I think I got a little bit lost in the sauce when it came to keeping the darks dark and the lights light, you know, because I just kind of got lost in that. But overall, I do think that this method helped me a lot when it came to just making the ease of a complex image more accessible, if you get what I'm putting down. Now, if you couldn't tell already, this is Mau Mau from the Apothecary Diaries. I just finished season 1 and I'm currently starting season 2, so don't put any spoilers down in the comments. And the minute I finished season 1, I immediately knew I wanted to draw her. And I'm be honest with y'all, I had to kind of stop the image here because I didn't want to over render it. I just feel like a lot of the times when you don't know what else to do in a drawing, you should just stop. I did stop for a few hours and come back later, and I still didn't really know what I could do, so I kind of just stopped the image right there. And I think if I would go back and change something, because I always say this, I would kind of condense her into a shape with a black outline. Try to see if I can do this for y'all in this video, but I had like this second idea of like her being in this bottle shape. I don't know, it's weird, but that's maybe something I would do to just make it a little bit more visually interesting than it already is. But other than that, I kind of went in, fixed the lighting a bit, did a little bit of details here and there, and I was done. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Also, I did my best at explaining things in a way that I understand them, but I feel like I might not be that good at explaining things in a way that other people can understand them. So if you have any suggestions or tips down in the comments for me, let me know. Also, if you like the painting, Let me know down in the comments what you like about it. If you don't like it, maybe let me know down in the comments what you don't like about it. I don't know. But like, comment, subscribe. Put any video suggestions down in the comments below. If you have any, I'll definitely try to take them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.